For more on this, let's bring in constitutional attorney Seth Berezweig. Seth, welcome.
Thanks for being here.
So tomorrow is a monster day at the Supreme Court. Here's how constitutional lawyer Jonathan Turley, a Fox News contributor, set the stage.
And so everyone's trying to do this bum's rush on the court, saying, where's the opinion, where's the opinion? This line is critical in determining where Article 2 begins and ends on some of these issues. And so the expectation is they may come up with a nuanced view and send this back.
What are your expectations for the Trump immunity case?
Well, I think they will send it back, so we're in agreement there. I don't think that they can take too much of a nuanced view because it really boils down to whether Mr. Trump's actions were within or outside of the scope of his executive authority. And it really is akin to an employment case in the sense that you have jury instructions that talk about whether someone's actions are inside or outside the scope of their work. Now, of course, Mr. Trump had a very unique and very powerful job, but if that's the litmus test, and I think that's the line that the Supreme Court's going to draw, that's what it's going to get remanded down on. Judge Chutkan will get the case. In sum and substance, I believe that the Supreme Court will have a very difficult time finding executive immunity as broad as the former president wants. And when it gets remanded down, Judge Chutkan has said she needs 80 to 90 days to be able to run the trial. That means if she runs quickly, she can start the trial in September. So we'll see what happens on Monday with this major decision. But it's remotely possible that we will have a trial here in Washington in September.
All right, so we will track that. Then there's the Supreme Court ruling Friday as it relates to the January 6th defendants.
Right.
6-3 decision. Here's the former president on that one.
The Supreme Court ruled that Biden's Department of Justice has wrongly prosecuted hundreds of Americans for peacefully protesting on January 6th. So we're asking, based on the decision, they should immediately be released immediately.
What's your assessment of that ruling?
Well, this really leans into Mr. Trump's case because one of the charges that he's facing in the D.C. federal court here relates to this inhibition or delaying of an official proceeding on Capitol Hill. The problem with that in terms of a potential defense, which now the president's lawyers will argue, is that the Supreme Court said that as long as it relates to the destruction or alteration of documents, it can stand. And I believe that this charge by Jack Smith relates to the alleged falsification of electoral records that were going to be counted for the presidency. So it will be a defense. They did lean into it, but it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle for the president based upon this ruling that occurred by the end of this past week.
All right, I want to be fair and show the Attorney General Merrick Garland's reaction. He said, quote, the vast majority of the more than 1,400 defendants charged for their illegal actions on January 6th will not be affected by this decision. Final thought on that case.
Well, I think that he's probably in part correct. Of the 1,420 approximate people who have been convicted, only 52 are people who are facing charges solely with respect to this count. Now that that's getting thrown out, about half of those people are currently incarcerated. So while he's right that it's not a broad swath, it's going to make a big deal and a big difference for dozens of defendants that have been convicted of this crime.